So it's only been like a week and a half since we've done our last public show. And in that time, we had Phillip Rivers unretire and practice and play in a game and almost win. We had basically half the Packers roster get injured and throw their entire season up in the air. We had the Chiefs get eliminated and Patrick Mahomes, even more importantly, have a devastating knee injury to his ACL and I believe LCL at the same time. And we also had the Bills play in their sixth game this year where they allowed 185 plus rushing yards and somehow they're 4-2 in those games. So a lot's happened, EJ, since the last time we've done a public show. How are you? Have you recovered from everything?
I'm good. Little water over the bow in the NFL world, for sure, to say the least. The end of this season is shaping up to be something we haven't seen before. Ben Solak posted today that this is the latest we haven't had division winners in the NFL. And the NFL schedulers did that on purpose. They put all these division games at the end of the year so that things would be down to the wire. Keeps interest high. And I, for one, think it's really cool because we don't have 4 or 5 division winners already settled, and we're just really looking at 2 or 3 races over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It is wide open. It is fun football, and yeah, we've had the good, the bad, and the weird over the past couple of weeks, and it makes for a good experience.
We're going to start off today's show talking Packers and everything that has happened up in Green Bay in the last week and a half. It's a lot. So on the other side of the intro, we'll get into that. Neil, please roll it. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. It's week 16. The Bears look great, and the Packers are on shaky ground. I don't know how to react to this, quite frankly. It's entirely new territory to me. I will say, though, going into the second Bears-Packers matchup of the season, I don't want to say I feel bad. Well, I do feel bad. I feel robbed a little bit of what I think this game could have been, right? Because the first Bears-Packers game was great, in my opinion. Some big offensive plays, some big defensive plays. Jordan Love, during Toyotathon is some of the best quarterback player you're ever going to see. Micah obviously had been a big impact for this team. Like, this Packers team very clearly was in the inner circle of Super Bowl favorites. And then you got, the young upstart Bears, first-time head coach, young quarterback, great run game, defense scrapping its ass off every single week. Like, I felt like this was really going to be like a cinematic masterpiece kind of game to decide the NFC North. And the Micah injury and the Zach Tom injury and the Christian Watson injury and even going back to the Tucker Kraft injury and Golden's missed a lot of time. Like, basically, again, more than half of the Packers' best 10 players are injured right now. And so it's kind of put a little bit of a damper on it. I really do feel like in a lot of ways this was kind of supposed to be the Packers' year, and they've just had supremely bad injury luck, and that's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's been working the way that they wanted to. It has played out to plan, not exactly to plan, but definitely as they imagined when everybody's been healthy. And we'll talk about the health of this team largely in this segment because it's what's changed for Green Bay, certainly over the last week. Micah joining the Packers was obviously a huge deal, blockbuster moment in the NFL, and it could have gone badly for them, but it really hasn't up to this point. He has been elite this year. There is no other way to say that since joining the Packers. Among edges with at least 100 pass rush snaps, he's third in win percentage behind Miles and Will Anderson. He's second in total pressures in true pass sets, again behind Will Anderson Jr., and second in sacks in true pass sets behind Miles. So that's the company we're talking about. We are talking about definitively a top 3 edge in the NFL, and maybe even more because that doesn't even really cover his impact. Watching offenses twist and contort themselves every week to try and deny him production because they know he's going to wreck their shit is ridiculous spectacle, and it still hasn't worked. He's still been that effective with every number of double teams, shifts, runs away. It doesn't matter. He is still creating opportunities both for himself. Usually when somebody gets that much attention, it's like, hey guys, there's 3 people over here. Y'all have to do something. But Micah was still doing something on top of it by himself. And that has been exactly why they paid the price to go and get him. Now, you don't replace a guy like that. There just isn't another one out there. And even in the aggregate, it's tough to do, and especially late in the season at a premium position. So not only do you not replace it, they really need it. It's the reason they went out and got him to basically, throw a bomb in the cake batter was because they couldn't do it on their own. Green Bay's best pressure rates for defensive ends, defensive tackles, and inside linebackers are all below NFL average. Gary's their best defensive end. He's at just over 11%. The NFL average is 17 for the position.
By the way, 11% is bad. Like if that's your best one, that's bad.
He's their second best one because, strangely enough, a guy that we have been very critical of early in his career but has rounded to form nicely, Quay Walker, is at 16.67% for inside linebackers. Again, the NFL average is right at 17, so he's very close, but in terms of defensive tackles, Wyatt is at 7.73%, and the NFL average for DTs is 13%. So, the rest of the cast was not getting it done, and they got Micah to really be that alpha to create pressure on his own, but also to create opportunities for the rest of the guys. And it has been working. The defense has been very good. The Packers have been one of the most well-rounded teams in the NFL. Add that to the ultimate glass cannon on offense, and that's actually complimentary. I'm concentrating on the cannon part with Christian Watson because when he came back from injury, and injuries have been his, pardon the pun, Achilles heel. Like, it's the reason that he is not considered one of the elite receivers in the NFL. But even though when he's been back the last 4 weeks before last Sunday, he had 15 catches, 264 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 4 weeks. And he scares every defense that he goes up against deep. And that opens up so much of the rest of the Packers offense. Packers offense with Christian Watson, without, 2 totally different operations. So he might go. He avoided serious injury, but let's see how functional he really is because everybody's hurt in the NFL at this point. How hurt is he? How much will it affect his production? But if you take that guy off the offense and Micah off the defense, it's literally their 2 top players in terms of impact on each side of the ball. That would be enough. You add in Zach Tom and Evan Williams, who, again, aren't out for the season, but we don't know if they're going to play. I would imagine Zach Tom would probably play. He's a tough son of a gun. But, again, how much, how effective? And like you said, if you're looking at the top 10 players on that roster, probably 6 of them are questionable or out on the injury list. And that is a lot of firepower. Not very many teams can withstand that. We see teams that play well with injury every year, but not injuries to stars across the board on both sides of the ball.
The saving grace is that they still have Jordan Love, who, okay, even if you put Micah as the best player in the Packers roster, Jordan's at least 2, right? And he's been phenomenal this year. And you and I have picked plenty of nits over the first, few years of Jordan being the starter. Some of his YOLO tendencies we've talked about in the past, just the really, really horrifically timed turnovers and everything like that. But like this year, I really do feel like Jordan Love has played a lot of his best football. It just hasn't necessarily gotten a lot of the attention that maybe it deserves because overall the Packers offense has been not as efficient as we want it to be. And everybody looks at the defense as like the star of the show in Green Bay. But if you're looking at Jordan Love overall, especially as the season goes on, I think he's played really, really well this year. So they still have a shot as long as they have Jordan playing like we know he is capable of. The issue is their margin for error is so much smaller now. So really it's incumbent on Jeff Hafley to try to alleviate that and make the margin for error bigger through his sheer brilliance as a defensive coordinator, which I personally do think he can do. I do think that he can give a potentially Zach Tom-less, Christian Watson-less, Tucker Kraft-less Packers offense. I do think he can give them some breathing room, but it has to be through scheme because he can't rely on just Micah fucking shit up anymore. So I was talking to Cody Alexander basically this whole week about that. Like, okay, what is the pivot? What is the move? How do they still make this defense good enough to hold teams, let's just say, under 24 points, so that you hope your very, very good quarterback can score at least 25 and you walk out with a win, maybe even go on a run? How do you do that? The identity of this Packers offense is in how they run their coverages. It's not that they run a wide variety of coverages, but they get into their two best coverages, which are cover 3 weak. So you start out in a 2 high safety shell, you rotate a safety down on the weak side, you get into cover 3 post snap. They run that a lot, and they run a lot of what are called NTTs, non-traditional Tampas. So it's cover 2, but it's like fancy cover 2. We're going to get into it in all sorts of weird angles and rotations, right? Those are really the identity of this defense going back to 2024 when Hafley got there. And they didn't have Micah last year, obviously, and the pass rush did have issues, obviously. And, Edgerrin Cooper was a rookie, and they were trying to figure out what to do with Quay, and Hafley kind of cobbled a really good defense together out of just pure schematic brilliance and slowing down quarterbacks through rotations and making them hold the ball a little bit longer and second guessing what they're seeing and hoping that it helped the pass rush enough to get home by making the quarterback hold the ball longer rather than the pass rush just straight up winning up front like it was doing this year with Micah. So I think he's going to lean even more into that. You're going to see the wildest rotations into very basic coverage looks ever, just to try to get, especially Caleb as a young quarterback, to get him to try to hold the ball. And I also think you're going to see Quay Walker. You alluded to it, and Cody brought it up with me. Quay Walker is going to play the Micah role, not as an edge rusher, but as that kind of stack blitzing linebacker over the nose tackle, which we saw Micah do a lot this year. He would stand behind the nose, and he would kind of pick his spots. Sometimes he was the one who would kind of knock down the pins while somebody looped behind him. Sometimes they were creating an angle or a seam for him to run through. Sometimes they would put Micah stacked on the nose tackle, and then all of a sudden he would end up as the contained player outside. Like, they're going to use Quay to do that because, as you mentioned, he's their second most effective pass rusher. He's 6'3", 240. He's got size. Edgerrin Cooper is great in coverage, so you let him be like the coverage linebacker. You let Quay be the blitzing linebacker. They're probably going to use a lot of 3-3-5. They're probably going to use a lot of 3-2-6 dime, and they're going to win with really fancy coverages and just trying to get Quay Walker loose as a blitzer. You can't rely on Rashawn Gary to win one-on-one. You can't really rely on any of these edges or DTs to win one-on-one, especially because Devonta Wyatt's also injured. So it's going to be pure scheme. Like, this is Jeff Hafley's time. And if he can just keep offenses under 24 points, they got a shot because Jordan Love is on the other side. Matt LaFleur's on the other side. But, like, if the Packers not even make the playoffs, if the Packers get to like the division round with this, it's one of the best coaching jobs in the NFL. It really is. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl anymore because they just don't have the dudes. But if they get to the second round with this, that's an achievement in itself.
I fully agree, and I'm glad you brought up Edgerrin Cooper because even though you're not going to use him as the blitzer, he's decent in that role, but he's not as good as Walker. You're going to use him to slow down offensive threats, and he is such a dynamic and athletic player that it gives Hafley the ability to say, hey, I'm going to turn Quay loose. Edge, you got anything that comes through. I don't care whether it's an athletic tight end doing a scrape. I don't care whether it's a little Dallas route, or Texas route from the running back, angle route, whatever you want to call it. Like, Edge is easily capable of covering that, and he's one of, again, the most athletic interior linebackers in the league, and that allows Green Bay the sort of half second of grace for that pass rush to get home through scheme. So I'm with you. If Watson and Tom and Williams return pretty quickly and fairly fully, this is still a very good team with a very good coaching staff. Both LaFleur and Hafley can be in their bags and are pretty regularly, and that keeps the Packers relevant. But if they don't come back quickly or well, look, the Packers' outlook dimmed considerably, just with Watson alone. I know everybody's concentrating on Micah, and rightfully so. But again, this offense, you said it earlier, struggled early in the season. And when Watson came back, it opened up in so many ways. It was like a forest after a fire, right? All of a sudden, all the blooms come up, and you're like, oh, this is what you meant when you had a true deep threat that could threaten. Without that, or if he comes back and he's impacted and he's just not effective in those contested catch situations down the field, again, I'm with you. I don't think they have the horsepower to go all the way at that point. So really depends on those guys coming back and the coaches making very few mistakes, and that is a thin margin for error.
I'm looking at their schedule right now because I'm curious who they got for the last 3 weeks. Obviously, they got the Bears game this week, which even if everybody was healthy, like that would have been a bar fight that maybe they would have lost on the road. But even taking the Bears game out, you finish with Baltimore, and then you go on the road to Minnesota. I still think they can beat Minnesota. Because J.J. McCarthy, again, young quarterback, not exactly known for having a quick processor at the moment anyway. So Jeff Hafley is like the worst DC he could see right now.
Yeah.
And then with the Ravens, I don't really know what to make of them at all. So who knows? Like, they could still finish the season 2-1, and right now they're 9-4-1. So that would be 11-5-1 and still be a wild card. Like, they could still get in here. I know, our buddy Marcus and a lot of Packers fans are like, season's over. And I'm not there yet. Like, Super Bowl aspiration, probably over. And if you define season over as, well, we're not winning the Super Bowl, therefore season over, like, I totally understand that relative to expectations. But I still think the Packers are going to be playing January football. Like, I'm not out on them quite yet in that regard.
I hate to tell you, we can't use the phrase January football anymore.
Why?
Last week of the regular season's in January. Everybody's playing January football.
Okay. Mid to late January football.
We got to pivot. We got to pivot to playoff football. It's like when we pivoted to a 17-game season and we were like, I don't know, I think they're going to go 8-8. We're like, what happens in the last game? So it's just
what messes me up is the college schedule now.
Yeah.
Because the portal opens on January 2nd and it runs for a couple weeks after that, like during the playoffs.
During everything else.
Everything. So, and the declaration date, I believe, also runs during the playoffs, and you get a late declare date if you make the national championship, which obviously is great for those kids. But when you're looking at the portal schedule with when teams are playing, with also the head coach carousel timing, with when the start of the next semester, the entire college calendar is a mess. And other than moving everything up by a couple weeks to get the Natty to effectively be the Rose Bowl on January 1st every year, I don't know how to fix that. So if you think the NFL calendar is rough, college football is so much worse.
Yeah, if you thought we were having fun at the end of the NFL season, the college football creators are in the thick of it right now.
It's just chaos every day. We will get right back to the show in just a second, I promise. But first, we're coming up on the holiday season pretty quick here, and the best possible gift you could ever give to yourself is making sure you are healthy. That means having consistent annual checkups, making sure that anything that doesn't look normal or feel normal gets checked out, having a better nutritional regimen as well. And even though I myself already have a doctor that I really like, I have to assume that some of you listening and watching to this right now maybe don't have a doctor already. And if you happen to count yourself among that group, today's sponsor, ZocDoc, might be able to help you with that. On ZocDoc, you can find and book doctors in your area that can handle whatever it is that's been bothering you in the back of your mind. Maybe you haven't been to the dentist in a while. Maybe you're way overdue for a physical. Maybe you have a spot on your skin that you really should have gotten someone to look at months ago. Whatever you need, you can find on ZocDoc. And fast as well. If you need something, 24 to 48 hours out because it's a little bit more of a pressing issue, odds are you can probably find something in your area that quickly. Again, if I didn't already have a doctor that I happen to like a lot, ZocDoc is what I would use to find my new one. So if you want to check it out for yourself and see what they have to offer, go to ZocDoc.com/bootleg. That is ZocDoc.com/bootleg. Again, ZocDoc.com/bootleg. Next topic on the docket, Kansas City Chiefs. And I know people at this point are probably tired of hearing about the Chiefs, but this is probably the last time we will talk about them the entire season. So, sorry, we have to. Season's over. Eliminated from the playoffs, which the fact that Kansas City got eliminated from the playoffs before we even have any division winners crowned and clinched is wild to me. I never thought I would see the day, but it's where we are, right? Mahomes out for the year. Questionable if he's going to even be ready for the start of kickoff next year. I personally think there's a good shot he will be because I saw Adrian Peterson do it, and if anybody's as big of a maniac when it comes to attacking rehab as Adrian Peterson, it's Patrick Mahomes. The dude's a sicko in the best possible way. So I do think there's a shot he's there for week 1, but who knows? Maybe he won't be. It's very possible he starts the year on the PUP list. We don't see him till week 5 of next season. That in itself is horrific for the Chiefs for 2026 as well, because it's tough to make up that kind of ground if you don't have your starting quarterback for the entire first month of the season. I'll just leave it there. As for what happened this year in Kansas City, you and I, in the summer series, when we break down the off seasons for every single team, everybody gets their own dedicated episode. We spend 60 to 90 minutes per ball club, and we talk about everything that went wrong, everything that went right, what they've done in the offseason to fix it. You and I had a lot of praise for how Kansas City approached this offseason, and the overall message was we don't think they're dead. They did a lot of moves in the offseason to shore up the weaknesses they had in 2024 when they made the Super Bowl. They improved the offensive line by adding Simmons. They had belief in Kingsley Suamataia to be a left guard for them, and he was. He was actually a pretty good left guard. You still had Creed, you still had Trey, so we liked the shape of the offensive line. They drafted Omar Norman Lott to ideally, give Chris Jones some kind of help in the pass rush. They were getting Rasheed back both from suspension and from injury. You got Xavier Worthy, you got another year Travis. Like, it didn't seem like their weapons were that bad, other than just not really having a running back that we believe in, which they still don't. And you could kind of see us working through weakness by weakness how they addressed most of those weaknesses and ideally improve them for 2025. And I really did believe that they did. But if you're looking at how the season transpired, Omar Norman Lott, which he was their big hope for improving the pass rush, he started the year hurt, played a couple weeks, got hurt again, haven't seen him since. Everybody in coverage, including Trent McDuffie, regressed this year. We pulled a stat from Sumer Brain last week that 5 of their starting defenders had allowed a passer rating of over 100 in coverage this year. They couldn't cover anybody. And with no Omar Norman Lott to help out Chris Jones and Karlaftis not living up to his deal and them having basically nobody else to rush the passer at all, you combine a bad pass rush with bad coverage, all of a sudden you get a shaky defense. Xavier Worthy gets hurt to start the year. Rashee Rice, you don't get back for 7 weeks. The run game, still bad. Mahomes was less accurate this season. And basically everything that could have gone wrong after an offseason that I thought went well, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And that just kind of happens, right? And I think this season is a good reminder that the Patriots were not normal, right? To have not one but 2 different dynasties in New England, only separated by like a sorta kinda 3-year down period, that's not normal. For every other franchise, the bill comes due eventually. And hell, even in New England, it did come due eventually. Now, they were only down for 5 years relative to 20 years of success, but they were still down for a little bit, and it took them a while to get back up. So this is just a reminder that, best laid plans, sometimes they don't work out. I thought the plan last offseason made sense. I thought they had a good offseason. It just didn't work out. When you look at injured offensive line, receivers not taking the next step, run game still bad, Mahomes less accurate, bad pass rush, bad coverage, like it just didn't work. And that happens in the NFL. Do I think 2026 is doomed? Not necessarily. But if they don't have Mahomes for that first month, I also don't look at the rest of this roster as good enough right now to get them through that period and start the season off well.
As much work as they did last summer, they're going to have to basically redouble their efforts. They're going to have to do that much and more just to stay even. And seeing Mahomes helped off the field was a visual capper to a very disappointing Chiefs season, but also a reminder in the NFL that you can only outrun the rest of the pack for so long. Everybody gets caught. Everybody. With that, it's time to look back. When we're talking about this in a way as a sort of watershed moment in Chiefs history, it really is. Mahomes has been a paragon of health in his NFL career. He's only missed 2 starts to injury in his entire career after dislocating his freaking kneecap in 2019. That's 125 of 127 regular season games after his rookie year, in which he famously didn't play very much. 20 of 20 postseason games. That is an entire extra NFL season of play that the Chiefs and Mahomes have gone through. That stuff adds up. They are all hits. And again, it's a good problem to have. You would definitely take that bargain if you're the Chiefs, but we can't go without notice and say, oh, it's not a thing. Availability has purely been one of his superpowers. He is one of the toughest quarterbacks in the league. He has played through a litany of other injuries that would have kept people off the field and played at a high level. He is a tough son of a gun. You said it at the top. I have every belief that he will attack rehab in an incredibly vigorous way and be back at a high level as soon as he can. So I'm not really worried about that, but it is time to sit back and sort of take it in what the Chiefs really did. The Chiefs are finally going to break one of the best streaks in the NFL. 10 consecutive 10-win seasons, 3rd longest streak in NFL history. 10-year run of making the playoffs. That's the 2nd longest streak in NFL history. And 7 consecutive conference championship appearances. Again, the 2nd longest streak in NFL history. That's an incredible run of success, period, full stop. Like, there's nothing else to say about that. Love them or hate them. Most people did a little bit of both, us included. You had to respect their excellence on the field. There is no other way to look at all of that, gestures and everything, and not go, that's incredible football. But this team is faced with some real challenges moving into next season. Again, I think Mahomes will be back strong. A lot of good football left in him, and that's a huge bonus for them. But the question now becomes, okay, so we've got this pillar quarterback. Now what do we do? They have to build a new team, a second team for him to take another run with. Weapons, I think they have plenty of receiving talent. I really do. They need to add a couple of dynamic pass-catching tight ends, not one, because Travis is going to move on probably sooner rather than later, and you're going to need a duo. You're not going to replace a Travis Kelce, a Hall of Famer, with one guy. So think about Knox and Kincaid in Buffalo, and Njoku and Fannin in Cleveland, et cetera, et cetera. There's a bunch of good young TE duos around the league that can contribute, and Mahomes is going to need them because clearly, very much so, he likes to run the offense that way. And I don't think they need to retool that, but they do need a roster infusion there. The running back. Can I
just make a suggestion? So sorry to cut you off.
No, feel free.
Just because I know this is going to strike the fear of God into you. Let's just say they lose out and they get a top 10 to 12 pick. There's a kid up in Oregon.
Yes, there is.
He looked pretty good in red, Kenyon Sadiq. I'm just saying. I know tight end's not like the flashy pick, but hey, boy, that makes a lot of sense to me.
This is a very good tight end draft. We've already covered several of them on the patron-only episodes. They are going to have the ability. Brett Veach is going to have a choice to go out and get those guys because obviously the Chiefs offense needs that balance. But they also cannot, and this is in capital letters, cannot avoid the running back room. They need a serious makeover. The average yards gained after contact last year was 32nd in the league. We've always said, the Chiefs rushing attack is average. Well, it's average in a lot of ways. That's not average. That's league worst. And this year it's not much better. It's 29th. They need fresh running back talent to pay off the fact that blocking from the line they still get is very good. A lot of people go, oh, well, they're not running well, so the offensive line's not blocking well. No, their yards before contact allowed is very good. It's almost top 10. But what they do with that space is literally bottom 3. Like, it's terrible. So they need fresh faces in the running back room. Hunt, Pacheco not getting it done anymore. And then pass rush. You alluded to it at the top. It's very important. Chris Jones was the guy. They thought about letting him walk. Instead, they paid him an absolute mint because they said, look, we've tried. It's not that the Chiefs haven't tried. A lot of teams just don't try to replace that production or augment it. They have tried. 3 out of the last 4 drafts, they've spent a high pick or picks on it. 2025, it was Omar Norman Lott in the second. 2023, it was round 1. Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He's turned out to be very much nothing. 2022, it was round 1 and round 3. Karlaftis and Chanel. And both of those guys are good NFL players. They're useful. They're fine.
They're okay.
They're fine. Yeah, they're okay. And we don't know if Omar Norman Lott is the second coming or not because he hasn't been on the field. So it's not like Brett Veach hasn't seen that need and gone, hey, I'm going to put very high assets towards solving it. But the bottom line is, even when you do that, and we see other teams with, say, quarterback do this, where they spend, high pick after high pick, and they just don't get an answer. It's not that they didn't try. It just doesn't work out. And that has been pass rush for the Chiefs. And until you solve that, you are going to have some pass rush. When you look at teams that are beating the Chiefs, right? You look at the Texans, right? They have two of the top, arguably 4 pass rushers in the league on their team. You need to be able to create pressure. And largely, the Chiefs have said, Spagnuolo has said, Chris Jones is our guy. When we need a play late in the game, third, fourth quarter, it's on the line, Chris is going to make a play for us. And he always has. Like, he has been ridiculously, uncannily consistent with that. It's not happening this year, and it's just one of those small things. We say every week, every year, NFL games come down to 3 or 4 plays. And the Chiefs have made those plays. Pat's made them on offense. Chris has made them on defense. And they have succeeded because of it. This year, everything fell off like, not a ton, but like 5 or 10% from everything along their slider. It's natural regression. And the sum total of those 1,000 cuts is a terrible season by Kansas City standards and a team eliminated, like you said, before any division winners are crowned. Not unheard of, but certainly unthought of in Kansas City for more than a decade. And they've got a lot of work to do if they want to fix it. It's not because they're a bad team. I want to be very clear to all the Kansas City fans out there. I do not think Kansas City is a bad team. But to win like they have, you need to be an excellent team. And to go from average or slightly below average, even with reverse regression happening, you need a lot of work on that roster to get back on top of the mountain, and it is a tough climb.
I also I want to say, so I was out in Kansas City for the Texans game. Well, the main reason was Underdog was having the Dog Bowl in Kansas City this year. So I went out for the Dog Bowl, hung out with all the folks from Underdog, everybody playing in the Dog Bowl. Had a wonderful weekend there. I had been to Kansas City before for the draft, but you and I were in a house in the burbs. We weren't really like in Kansas City. So this is the first time I ever really got to kind of like walk around downtown and just kind of be in KC. And I tend to have this reaction with all Midwest cities where I'm like, why don't more people live here, right? Like, even though it was single digits in the wind chill, good food, very underrated coffee city, super easy to get around, people were nice. Like, I had a great time, right? And, the one, I don't want to say negative, downer, I guess is the way to put it, is when I was in there watching my Texans effectively end the dynasty on Sunday Night Football, I had gone into Arrowhead for my first game at Arrowhead, in the cold, watching everybody do the chop, everything. Like, atmosphere was great in the first half. When we got to the second half, I was very surprised at how broken the fan base was, especially considering all the recent success. You go to 5 out of 6 Super Bowls, you win 3 of them, you're going to like 7 straight AFC Championship games. And they looked like they were Texans fans that were like used to failure and expecting failure. Like, it was not even a 10-point, it was a 7-point game with 7 minutes to go. And I saw people get up and leave, and I'm like, holy shit, like, they're broken. And that's what I didn't expect, again, for my first Arrowhead game when the Chiefs technically were not eliminated. This fan base was broken. Like, they had zero faith in KC winning that game. And they were correct. And I think that speaks to the buildup of this season, where all the times they had a moment to make a play in a big spot, and they didn't, week after week after week. It only took a few months for the fan base to completely lose faith in this team's ability to pull a rabbit out of its ass. And that to me was striking. Again, KC, wonderful town, good people, but I was shocked at how little faith in their own team after everything this fan base already had.
I wouldn't doubt it. It reminds me very much of those experiments where they put the serotonin drops on like mice brains. Right? And the KC fans have just had it so good. They have had every opportunity presented to them to fail, and somehow the Chiefs have pulled through, like with a ridiculously high hit rate. And they're just like, yeah, it naturally happens. We get in these terrible situations. Pat wills us to victory one more time, and it was rote at that point. It was just what happened, right? And you get so used to being on that elevated sort of serotonin high of we're always going to do it. Like, it doesn't matter how bad it looks. Look at the results. We're always going to do it. And then the first time you sort of yank the rug out from under that, it's like, oh, wait, this is what everybody else feels. This feels so much worse. I'm not into this. I don't want to put up with it.
Yeah, this is how the other 31 fan bases feel every week. This kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Huh.
Weird.
I don't like that at all. All right. Speaking of the Chiefs, by the way, that brings us to Shot of the Week. And they have one player on the team who consistently seems to be the recipient of Shot of the Week. And that's Rashee Rice. He's nominated not once but twice this week. But I do want to give a little toast to our reigning winner, Jalen Naylor, another receiver.
Let's
the
go.
rare receiver to win Shot of the Week, by the way.
Yeah.
For ominously standing in the middle of the field and forcing that fumble.
He might be the first. Like, we've had running backs win it. We've had offensive linemen win it. I don't know that we've had a wide receiver win Shot of the Week.
Let alone one built like Jalen Naylor.
True.
But credit where credit's due. I mean, the kid can hit. Again, forced a big fumble in the middle of the field. I don't think they won that game. It was in week 13. I can't remember if they won. But either way, cheers to you, Jalen Naylor. This shot's for you. I'm doing baseline Woodinville, by the way. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm doing a sample.
Oh, the other barrel. Look at you. See, I still have mine. I'm waiting.
No, I still have that as well. It's not that. So you remember the credit card ads membership has its privileges?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, living in Washington has its privileges. When I go to Woodinville, they go, here, do you want to try this? And I'm like, well, sure, why not? That sounds amazing. So
wait, you got to take home that bottle?
No, I don't always bring home full bottles, but they do give me some good stuff. And I don't want to build expectation because it may or may not come out, or it may or may not be sold out. But yeah, it's good.
Well, cheers to you, Woodinville, for giving EJ bottles that you're not giving me, apparently. I see who's the favorite. Jesus.
Yeah, no, I get to be the favored kid living in the backyard. But yes, and I also have, interestingly enough, this is just bootleg trivia because fans seem to enjoy bootleg trivia. The barrel that housed our single barrel release that we just sold out of in less than 24 hours is on my porch.
Again, you get everything.
I get the good stuff. I get the good stuff, man. Now, to be fair, I was going to bring you your Woodinville hat in Kansas City. It was literally in my carry-on. So it came all the way out to eastern Montana and then said, nope, you don't get your hat. So it'll be the next time I see you, probably at Shrine Bowl.
Oh, God, we got to book Shrine Bowl tickets.
Yeah,
That's in
bit,
like a few weeks.
A little bit about that after the podcast. But yes, I will bring you your Woodinville goodies the next time I see you, which was going to be KC, but, airlines had other plans.
Well, this week's nominees for Shot of the Week, again, Rashee Rice, the first time, getting absolutely detonated by Jalen Petre in the game I actually had a great view because I was sitting sort of kind of like behind Petre watching him take that angle, and it's one of those, as the ball got released, I was like, no. And luckily he survived. Worse for wear on the other end, but he did take a monster shot from Petre that was clean. Next nominee, Dre Greenlaw, from this past week on Josh. I think it was Josh Jacobs, right?
It was Josh Jacobs. He hit him at perfectly 90 degrees. You don't see this very often. So Josh Jacobs broke free through the middle of the line. Dre Greenlaw was playing weak side linebacker as usual. He turns and runs. He sees him cutting through the line. He literally turns 90 degrees and just goes on a line and meets Josh Jacobs at a perfect 90-degree angle and completely decleats him. Now, Josh Jacobs, to his credit, popped up, was like, we can do that all day. I'm here to tell you, folks, he felt that one. That was a solid pop.
Speaking of pops from the side, Christian Ellis. Again, we haven't done Shot of the Week in a couple weeks because we haven't done a public show in a little bit. And the last time we had done a show, it was before the Monday night game where Christian Ellis completely detonated Jackson Dart on the sideline. So we saved that one to nominate it for this one, our first public show back. So Christian Ellis, again, another nominee. And then Rashee Rice, again, getting obliterated against the Chargers this past weekend. I'll tell you what, man, he's tough. Yep. He's tough. He's taken some huge hits this year, and he's popped back up. So credit to you, Rashee, for not turning into a cloud of pink mist like I surely would have. But those are your 4 nominees for Shot of the Week. If you want to vote for the winner, again, that is a public poll over on the Patreon. You don't have to be a patron to vote for it. It's linked down below. But if you want to become a patron and get access to our bonus show every week, we'd obviously appreciate that as well. This week's bonus show is going to be underrated rookies who have played better than their publicity suggests, mainly because EJ apparently wanted to talk about Devin Neal, so that's our excuse to talk about Devin Neal.
Hell yes.
So that'll be our private show, excuse me. Also, one more note, our bootleg barrel pick with Woodinville did sell out in 17 hours, so we didn't even get a show up to promote it before it got sold out. We will be doing another one, trust me on that. But we still do have one more bottle available of the bootleg barrel pick, which is a not for the faint of heart, 118 proof. That is going to go to whoever wins the Underdog season-long pick'em contest. I'll throw the results on the screen for who won last week. Again, winners for the weekly contest, which is just you do 10 different individual player picks. Not 10 entries, just 10 individual player picks. Whoever gets the highest win rate from week to week, you get a bootleg mini helmet, you get a bootleg shirt of your choice in whatever size you want, and $500 in Underdog credit. Over the course of the season through the Super Bowl, as long as you get to 120 total cumulative player picks, whoever are the 10 people with the highest win rates between now and the end of the season, the first prize winner is going to get that bottle. Again, there's only one left. So if you want it and you're continuously playing every week in the Underdog Pick'em contest, again, also linked down below, that is your path to get it if you weren't able to snag one. First place also gets $3,000 in Underdog credit, a full-size helmet, not even a mini. Like top 3 get full-size helmets and merch as well. So there's 10 winners for the season long. Again, we put up on screen who won last week, but also linked down below, you can see who's currently in the lead in the season-long contest. So if you're in striking distance, we're kind of in the shit now, right? Like we only got a few weeks left in the regular season, then we only got a few playoff games after that. So if you're in striking distance, keep pushing through. If you can get to that top 10, you get a lot of stuff. And if you win the whole damn thing, you get that bottle, and we'll send it to you personally. All right, next topic on the docket. Speaking of well-aged things, EJ. Phillip Rivers came out of retirement this past week, out of nowhere, and not only got signed to a roster and practiced, but actually started in a game on the road and had a lead with a minute to go.
Yep.
Somehow, in classic Phillip Rivers fashion, he had the ball with 2 minutes to go, had to drive down, get a field goal. He did it, and then his defense immediately caved, which takes me back to
I was going to say,
Rivers.
Deja vu all over again.
Story as old as time. But I got to say, like, for a guy who was on the couch last week, he acquitted himself pretty well. Like, yeah, he got rid of the ball in 2.4 seconds on average. And yeah, his, average depth of target was like 5 yards down the field, and 79% of his yards, like literally 79% of his yards were after the catch compared to an NFL average of about 47%. Is it sustainable? No, not at all. But credit to him for at least making it work and not, I won't even say not even embarrassing himself. I would say looking way better than I think anybody expected him to look.
Yeah, I think our guy Ben Solak summed it up best, or perfectly actually, on ESPN. It was inspiring, but also not very good. So the inspiring part is the fact that Rivers got off his couch, kept an NFL team in a game against Mike McDonald's defense. That is awesome and amazing. And it is a reminder that pro athletes, even after 5 years of not working out, can still get some things done. And that is ridiculous. I expected much less, to be honest. Now, the not very good part. Time waits for no man in the NFL, and Rivers played that string out fully while he was in the NFL the first time. He was done physically when he left, and rest hasn't really helped those ravages. watching him trying to shot put 5-yard outs was both compelling and a little heartbreaking. Like, oh, come on, man, you can make it. Regardless of the defense, and Seattle is relentless. This is no shot at Hawks fans. Don't get me wrong. If you saw this stat line from your quarterback from last week, you're not celebrating. 18 of 27, 120 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick, and an NFL rating of 73. Now, given that that's a 44-year-old guy that got off the couch last week, it is astounding. But if you go a little deeper, you're talking about sustainability and what the Colts have left for the rest of the season. It's not really a Cinderella story. You alluded to it. 5.2 yards, average depth of target, 4.4 yards per attempt on passing. That's not an offense that's going to scare anybody. We talked about Christian Watson at the top of the show and the difference he makes opening up the Green Bay offense in general because he scares people down the field. Look, Alec Pierce scares people down the field too. Not anymore. They don't care about Alec Pierce. We're going to see a defense literally let Alec Pierce run free. Because after 30 yards, who cares? Phillip Rivers isn't going to be able to hit him. So
they threw a back shoulder fade to him late. Like, that's what got him into field position. I'm like, why are you playing top down on Alec Pierce? Like, just play trail, dude. It's not going over the top.
Yeah,
just play
you're
trail.
You're going to be able to slow down and catch it. So defenses for the rest of the season are going to sit on everything. They're going to jump those short route ducks that I talked about for picks, and they're going to annihilate Jonathan Taylor on the way to the quarterback. It's going to be play the run on the way to the QB because it's probably going to Taylor. He is their most effective weapon. And if he doesn't get it, just keep running and kill Phil. And that's going to be it. That's the defensive game plan for Colts opponents for the rest of the year. And Indianapolis is in short about at the same place they were before Rivers. They are hoping for low percentage ways to win football games, special teams play, busted run fits for Taylor to exploit, that kind of thing, to present themselves so they can capitalize instead of creating, sort of forging their own ways to victory, which they were doing with Daniel Jones, more so early in the year, but even through the middle part of the year, they were sort of controlling their own destiny on the field through offense, which was a great change for the Colts and Steichen. It was a tremendous story. It sucks that Daniel Jones got injured. You talked about it with the Packers and Bears game. You feel kind of cheated. I feel kind of cheated that we're not going to see the rest of this Indianapolis season sort of at full power, no matter what they were going to do. Do I think they were going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not, but could they have played in the divisional game?
Dude, yeah. I don't know, man. If they stayed healthy, I would have put them in the inner circle.
Yeah, I would have put them in. They certainly could have been at the conference championship game level, especially if they found that groove from like the first 5 weeks, which was unreal. Now, what people weren't talking about with Colts is they'd kind of fallen off in the middle of the season and teams had gotten the book on them a little bit, and they were still being effective, but not as effective. So regardless, I feel shorted because I feel like Colts fans are going to talk about this season like Bears fans talk about the season when Cutler broke his thumb. Tackling on the interception.
Oh, yeah.
Like they were kicking ass, and then the quarterback left, and, well, that was that. And they'll talk about it for a good long time in Indianapolis, another Midwest city that we love spending time in. A long time as a sort of, it'll be one of the all-time classic what-if moments, sitting around having a beer at a bar in Indianapolis going, if Daniel Jones doesn't blow his Achilles, like, the Colts probably go to the conference championship game.
Houston's got one of the. If Albert Hainsworth didn't fucking step on Matt Schaub,
100%. I think
in 2011 they probably go.
I think most fan bases have a would have been, could have been that they think about relentlessly, and it's just the nature of the NFL. And to sort of circle it all back around, it goes back to what we just said about the Chiefs. Despite all that, despite all those random ass things that happen in the NFL, they were able to sustain, and that just shows you how hard it is with all the things working against you. Regression, injury, just variance, again, bad bounces, like all these things add up, and the great teams overcome them by the smallest of margins. And if you can do that year after year like the Chiefs did, it makes the accomplishment all the more special because the NFL is truly the not-for-long league.
I also I want to give a shout out to the Colts defense for truly playing their ass off.
They kept this team in the game without question. Again, Seattle's offense very, very potent. Indianapolis let them have nothing, and that kept the Colts in the game.
2.3 yards per attempt allowed, right? Lowest of or Seattle had 2.3 yards per attempt. So lowest of any team in week 15. I thought they put on a for what we know the Seattle offense could do to people, they really did put out a Herculean effort. So I want to give Lou Anarumo and especially that front seven credit because controlling the run game like that, it kind of kept that game from getting out of hand, forcing 6 field goals. Also credit to it's Myers? No, not
Yes.
Myers.
See?
No, it is Myers.
Okay, this is my thing. One of the best players in the NFL that is never talked about. Like, Myers for the Hawks is so important. He's so good at his job. Everybody's like, oh, Brandon Aubrey, blah, blah, blah. Like, Myers is so good, and nobody ever says his name. Like, you literally don't even know his first name. Like, that's the thing. It kills me that, like, he just goes out there and makes kicks and walks off the field. And you're like, it makes a big difference. Everybody's talking about JSN, and rightfully so. Colts defense did a great job against JSN. He didn't really have any impact until the second half. Kingsbury's offense, Darnold, the whole bit. Nobody ever says Myers' name, ever. And he's one of the best kickers in the NFL, period.
75% from 50-plus this year. 11 of 12 from 40 to 49, which is, like, you have to be
deadly
money there. So, again, hell of a season by him. And I don't believe anybody's ever hit 6 field goals in a game for the Seahawks before. I believe that was a team record. So, again, Colts run defense stepped up.
Yeah.
But when you have a kicker that's nails like that, where every time we need to get 3, we get 3, we don't have a drive stall for nothing. Like, how many teams have we seen lose games this year because they miss a field goal and all of a sudden the math changes and the end of game scenario changes? Like, hell, I was there again in Kansas City when Butker missed a field goal. That changed the math at the end of the game, right? Like, you kind of can't afford to miss those when you only have a limited number of possessions. So again, credit to Myers for kind of willing them to victory there. Now, last topic of the show, yet another wild Bills comeback, down 21-0 at one point in that game, and then had 5 straight touchdown drives to get themselves back into it. Patriots kind of stalled in the second half, partly because they just didn't have the ball in the second half. I think they had 18 second half plays on offense. Was an incredible swing in that game, and I want to give the Bills credit for doing that yet again this season. They've had 6 games where they've allowed 185 plus rushing yards, and they're 4-2. The rest of the league combined has 4 wins this season under those circumstances. So it's a resilient team. I'm not saying their identity is perfect, but like, they have an identity, which is A, James Cook is going to pound the rock, and B, if we really need to play, Josh Allen's going to make it. That is what this team is. The defense is highly inconsistent. But when you have that kind of identity, as long as you're within striking range in the second half, you can win these games. Very few other teams, I think, can get away with it. But like, the Bills can get away with it because they have that margin of error where if they're within like 10 points at the start of the fourth quarter, they're okay. And credit to them for pulling it off. Again, is that a recipe for winning the Super Bowl? We'll see.
Yeah.
But it's at least gotten them this far. I'll say that. And they're still in potential position to win the AFC East because of it.
This is such a cool game from an AFC East power balance perspective. Like, as a, yes, I have family rooting interest in the Bills, but watching this game, that wasn't the thing. It was like, oh, I need the Bills to beat the Patriots. It's like, what's going to happen with the AFC East? Because it's hanging in the balance. The Patriots have clearly been better this year than the Bills. The Bills have owned that division for a long time.
Bills fans would...
I understand that.
Would consider them fighting words, just saying.
I get it. I'm related to many of them. But it was such a cool game to watch kind of without a rooting interest because New England looked like they were going to win this thing in a rout. First 3 drives went touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, and they led 21-0 at that point. So not only was the offense getting it done, the defense was getting it done. And then I think a very good young team in this Patriots team got the tiniest bit complacent. And it's human nature. Like, hey, we are kicking the crap out of our division rivals. We're up by 3 scores. They can't stop us. We're good. We're Gucci. We're golden. We're going to go the distance here. and then a very veteran Buffalo team that's been in many more high-level NFL battles recently settled in and got to work. And this is where the game really got cool. They played like they were stalking something, chipping away, taking advantage, demoralizing New England, and then finishing them off down the stretch. It was cool to watch this Bills team not panic and do to New England what other high-level NFL teams have done a few times to the Bills over the past few seasons. They really turned the table, and it was just slowly smashing the life out of your opponent with very competent football. And that, from a football analyst perspective, was just cool as hell. Like, Josh used all of his tools. He was deadly efficient in the passing game. You're talking about under 20 completions for 3 passing touchdowns. Like, basically 1 every 6 to 7 throws is a TD. Chipped in another 48 yards and 4 key first downs when the defense gave him, like, the opening. And the most important thing for outside of this game is that Allen is vibing with Brady again. He looked like the guy with all the answers to the test, and that was notably absent through the middle of the season. So that is something that any team that's facing Buffalo for the rest of the season should be scared by. That is the Josh you don't want to face, who plays efficient, smart football and always just kind of does the right thing, doesn't do the sugar rush Josh thing, throw the bad pick. And he looked like that against New England, and he needed to. Again, they were trailing by 3 scores. But James Cook is the engine of this offense, as it should be. 22 for 107 yards, 4.9 per, 2 rushing touchdowns, and another short one receiving. This is my mini soapbox for the week. I think people overlook how good James Cook really is, and I'm not sure why. Famous NFL brother. He's not loud about it, small market. I'm not really sure which of those things makes that the case. But what I do know is among all running backs over the past 3 seasons, Cook is 5th in rushing, and he is within 60 yards, again, 3 seasons, total over 3 years of both Jonathan Taylor and Bijan Robinson. So the top of the list is Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Again, both those guys have had monster seasons within that 3-year span. Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, and James Cook. And James Cook is, again, within 60 yards of Taylor. So 3 through 5 are roughly a wash. And it certainly feels like those other 3, 4 guys are more famous than James Cook, mentioned more often than James Cook. But he is all that and a bag of chips, especially for the Bills offense. And the defense was fired up. Like you said, it's inconsistent, but when it hits, it's really, really good. So they got their butts handed to them 3 out of the first 4 drives, like I said. Then they locked in and locked down May and the Pats. And New England would only get 1 more field goal and 1 more touchdown the rest of the way, including, and this is really, really important, coming out of halftime. Halftime adjustments, everybody gets warmed up, eats their orange slices, whatever. And they get blanked. The New England offense gets blanked in the third quarter. They scored nothing. Goose egg. And that was all the momentum the Bills needed to carry this through for a victory. Matt Milano played like a terror. That has been noticeably absent, sorely missing from the Bills' D for a while now. Cole Bishop continues to play well. Look, it took him a while to get there on the NFL stage. I will not argue that. But now it looks like he's there to stay. And he is playing, and this is so key, I can't overstress this, in McDermott's defense. He needs confidence from his defensive backs. He had it for ages. He had a safety tandem that he could count on in Poyer and Micah. Like, he needs those guys. Again, he's a defensive backs coach by trade. He needs them to process at a high level and clean everything up. And when his safeties weren't doing that, the defense looked bad. And Bishop has really stepped into that void and is kind of doing the all-everything routine that McDermott craves from that position. And the Bills' defense has played much, much better because of it.
When I look at not just the Bills' defense, but also the Patriots' offense in this game, you really do have to split it between the first and the second half.
Yes.
And the striking number to me is, if you're looking at yards per attempt in the second half, the Patriots averaged 23 yards per attempt, but they only had 3 attempts, right? 18 total plays, 3 of them rushing. So they had the second lowest second half run rate in the NFL this week at 16.7%. I'm looking at it right now. The only one who was lower was Miami because they were trailing and they're just throw. Didn't exactly work out for Miami. But the Patriots, even with a lead, got really pass happy because their total number of plays was very low. And so they kind of felt, it almost feels like they felt the walls were kind of closing in as the Bills were just score. And they got away from a run game that had been successful for them leading up to that point. They rushed for like just shy of 250 yards in this game. But they got away from that, and it was throw. And the Bills' pass defense is way better than the Bills' run defense this year. So I do feel like they kind of played themselves a little bit in that regard. They got away from what works. And even more importantly, if you're running, ideally you're taking away clock from Josh Allen and James Cook to use. Part of the reason why the Bills ran 37 times in this game and they felt comfortable with Cook being that engine to just grind. And then, okay, we get into a kind of a tough spot here. Let's have Josh make a play when we absolutely need him to. Like, they felt comfortable with that being their offensive identity and grinding their way back into the game because they had time to, right? Whereas if New England was leaning into the run game to not just chew up yardage, but also chew up clock, all of a sudden that shrinks the available real estate for the Bills to come back. And this is a pattern after digging into it this week. And again, I was talking to Cody Alexander about this a lot this week. This has been a pattern with the Bills defense where, yeah, they allow a lot of run yards, but it's really because of explosives. And this has been a very literally and figuratively hit or miss defense, right?
Yeah.
This is a team that's fourth in tackles for loss against the run and also second in explosives given up against the run. This is a team that has 57 total explosive runs allowed. 28 of them were due to a missed tackle. That's most in the NFL. So highest number of explosive runs given up due to a missed tackle, and also fourth in tackles for loss. How do you reconcile that? And if you're looking at not just the numbers but at the tape, you can see why this team, even in those 6 games where they gave up 185 plus rushing yards, the Bills controlled time of possession in 4 of those. Like, how often do you see a team give up 185 plus rushing, sometimes north of 200 rushing, and be plus in time of possession? It's because they give up explosives. So yeah, teams are getting a lot of run yards on them, but they're not grinding them down. They're not shortening the game. They're getting these huge 20, 40, sometimes 60-yard, massive gains, huge touchdown runs. And it's just giving the Bills back the ball quicker. So at that point, it might as well just be an explosive pass, right? And that is why the Bills feel so comfortable still having that hardcore under center run first identity. Josh Bayless out when he needs to on third down. Like, they can still be the Bills because overall the Bills run defense isn't horrible. It's just highly inconsistent. Either they get everything or they get nothing, but it's not really hurting them. It would almost be worse if they just gave up 4 yards a carry, but they did it 30 times in a game, right? So again, it's kind of a hard thing to understand at first because we're looking at micro stats versus macro stats. But if you're looking at pace of play, if you're looking at drive efficiency, if you're looking at time of possession, if you're looking at all the stuff that, when it comes down to it, determines if you win the game, the Bills are actually totally fine, right, with their run defense giving up this many yards because of how they're giving them up. And all you need, if you're Buffalo, is to, again, be within 10 points at the start of the fourth quarter. You get a couple tackles for loss to make up for those explosives you give up. You force a couple punts in the fourth quarter. You trust your guy to score twice and them to score once. All of a sudden, we end up with a win at the end, right? So it sounds stupid to say that the Bills' run defense isn't that bad, but it's more so they're not bad in a way that actually is worst case scenario. I hope I explained that correctly, but like they're not fine. That's a bad way for me to put it. They're not fine, but they're also not as worse off as maybe you think for a team that gives up that many run yards. They just need to learn to tackle. Like, they really do. Like, you especially saw it with Cole Bishop early in the year, like the bad angles he was taking in the Falcons game.
Or counterpoint, don't, because it's working for you. It's a strange concept, but
sorta.
They are
sorta, kinda.
They are like the zombie version of the KC run defense, which for years we have said is fine. It's middle of the pack. It's not great, but it doesn't need to be because they keep winning the freaking Super Bowl. So the Bills' defense, run defense in specific, the too long didn't read version of what you said is they do the bad things, but they do the bad things quickly, and that allows them time to then use their running game on offense. So they just sort of get the bad stuff out of the way. When they miss a tackle, it's for an explosive. And it goes the distance and the drive ends quickly, and they're like, oh, cool, we have time. We also have a Josh, so we're good.
Also, side note, this is just a fun number that is more weird than anything else. Well, not weird. Actually, it is indicative, again of the safety issue they had in the start of the year. So this team only has 47% of their snaps overall in middle field close structures. I pulled this off Sumer Brain because they chart middle field close versus middle field open. Middle field close meaning a safety in the middle field open meaning a too high safety look. So again, they chart both of those so I can get snap percentages. If you want to do that, you can go to the link in the description below to Sumer Brain, try it out for yourself. So 47% of their snaps, middle field close structures. 85% of all of the explosive runs allowed by Buffalo are in those middle field close structures, which to me, especially
should not happen.
Shouldn't happen. But also when I looked at a cut up of every 20 plus yard run this defense has given up, and there's a concerning amount of them.
It took you a while.
Shockingly, a large amount of time.
You might think, hey, this is a 5-minute task in my week. You're like bag of popcorn in going, man, this is taking a bit.
A little, yeah. No, I had a whole casserole going, finished from, But
very Buffalo of you.
I watched that whole cut up, and almost all of them were middle field close structures, even for a team that doesn't play a lot of middle field close. And it was mostly Cole Bishop, but sometimes others who were playing deep as a post safety, 18 to 20 yards off the deck and taking horrifically bad angles to the ball and coming in way too sharp. They were not aiming for the front hip of the defender. They were coming in, too downhill and then having to adjust themselves out, which I'm sorry, Cole, he's not fast enough to do that. Like, he kind of got to start wide and then correct back in rather than starting downhill and then trying to correct back out. Like, you want to play it safe here. So again, took a bad angle over and over and over again, especially in the Atlanta game. Happened 3 times in that one game alone. Happened against Miami. Happened 3 times against Baltimore. Like, every single game, almost every single game. Like, they've had that issue, which is when we get into a middle field close structure and we have a deep post safety, if that deep post safety has a running back coming at him, he's going to miss. And when he misses, they just keep going, and generally they score. So that is the one thing that if they just correct that and all of a sudden they're not giving up those huge explosive runs, I think the rest of their defense, again, it's not perfect, but the rest of their defense is good enough for them to go on a run. But that is the one thing that I worry about is, okay, when we get into the playoffs, we have to play the Patriots a third time. We got to play the Broncos. We got to play a resurgent Texans team. Can they survive that in the way that they've managed to survive it in the regular season? Can they do it again a 7th, 8th time in 1 year where they give up that many explosive runs and still have Josh and James will them to victory? I'd like to say yeah, but that's tough.
Yeah, you're not going to bet folding money on that. It reminds me of a concept from my previous life, which is fail fast.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If you're going to fail fast. Like, they've been failing fast, but in the playoffs, are you going to run out of time? And the answer is maybe. I hope not, for the Bills' sake and the Bills' fans' sake, for sure. But it is something to watch as we approach those games that we talked about last week that just kind of crank up the anxiety, for like a better term. Like, as you get those minutes tick by loud in playoff games.
All right. I think it's time we get out of here. Again, however you happen to be watching or listening, we appreciate you. Make sure to go to the Patreon, vote for Shot of the Week. If you want to take part in the Underdog Pick'em contest, that's also linked down below. So keep track of where you are in that. I want to thank all of our executive producers on the Patreon: Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, Spencer, Consti, and Iken. Iken's back, everybody. Thank you once again for your support. And with that, we'll be back in X number of days to talk about topic undetermined. We'll see you then.